Namaskar, all of you. I am Ravi Gupta. I am founder and CEO of Elets Techno Media Private Limited. We have been running a magazine called eGov for past 16 years, and this is India's first and the only magazine on e-governance being printed uninterrupted for last 16 years, and we are going to complete 200 issues next month. Uh, Today, we are doing a live interaction with a senior official, retired official of Government of India. He is Dr. D.K. Bhalla, an IS officer and an ex-secretary of Lok Sabha. And he has drawn various hats in his career of 38 years as a bureaucrat, a banker, a taxman, and now a strategic thinker and renowned author. He has two master's degrees in public administration and business administration, besides a PhD in tourism management. His area of expertise includes Northeast, tribal administration, governance, tourism development, livelihood creation, and self-help groups. Welcome, Dr. Bhalla. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Gupta. It is a privilege and an honor to be interacting with you for the benefit of my viewers and audience. Hello to everybody. Today's topic, as you had discussed with me, is the coronavirus and India's resilience so far in fighting against this virus, and what is the way forward for us. I would say to begin with that in my lifetime of 62 years, I have seen so many disasters, man-made as well as natural. I have been serving in Northeast, so you can very well imagine both types of disasters are in plenty there. But I have not seen such a disaster where mankind is so desperate, so helpless, and feeling so low. Mankind has put all its resources in this fight, and the most important resource there has been the resilience. Whether it is the resilience at the individual level, community level, organizational level, or at the national level. Now, what is resilience? The dictionary meaning of resilience is to come back in shape after the stretching factor or the outside external stimulus is over. Which means, can humanity come back to the normal life after the coronavirus is over? And while fighting this war, can we have the sufficient mental toughness to go through it? And resilience is required because it is a long fight. As we see from the facts so far, it is a global pandemic. No one has escaped so far. More than 200 countries are facing it, and the pace is very fast. 27 lakh people, more than that, being affected in a period of less than a month and a half. And this is going ahead of the human efforts. Mankind is making its efforts, and it is moving ahead. And the socio-economic damage is unimaginable. And the uncertainty, how long it will last, it causes anxiety and fear. What India has done so far? Immediately, the lockdown, which was very prudently done by the Indian Prime Minister, has proved to be the right step. And it is not easy for the population to go through a very prolonged lockdown, as we have seen. This is what resilience is. Why? Why people would not want to go under lockdown for a very prolonged period? Because by nature, we humans are gregarious, we love socializing, we have a habit of spending more time out of our homes on job, recreation, socializing, or business meeting. Sudden isolation or islanding, when you don't know when you will get out of it, causes a lot of uncertainty and fear and sometimes depression. Many have committed suicide outside India. But still, Indian population has accepted it, barring few exceptions. This is what resilience is all about, and hats off to Indian resilience. Migrant labor is one such exception where they have been forced to, disobey the lockdown because they wanted to go away to their homes. But this was done because they had panic. No one wanted to die away from their homes. This was because of fear and also because of the survival. Because governments also take time to gear up for sudden uncertainties and sudden requirements. And feeding millions of people suddenly, that also with social distancing, it has not been an easy task. So that was one exception. I would say that the corporate world, the business activity, which was facing this scenario of less sales, weak demand, credit crisis, digital disruption, policy flip-flops, and there is a question of survival, even they have shown a lot of resilience. None of them has panicked so far. They have articulated their demands, their requirements to the government, but none of them is saying it is the end of the world. There are sectors like cinemas, multiplexes, malls, hotels, restaurants, eateries, airlines, high contact businesses which have suddenly undergone shutdown, and they don't know what to do about it. There are fixed costs in all these businesses which will not go down. They did not have any contingent plan ever thought that they will work for 1 year or 2 years with zero revenue. Despite all this, the corporate world has taken it stoically on the chin and has moved forward and has shown solidarity with public as well as with the government. There are businesses where working from home was not an option, like police, like sanitation workers, municipal workers, hospitals, collection and distribution of milk. All these have been rightly characterized as Corona Yodhas by the Prime Minister and the government and various ministries. They are real warriors because they have shown exemplary courage. Many of them have been affected. Many of them have died in this fight without raising an eyebrow. And no one has said that now we will go off our duties. This is the kind of resilience India has shown. And then if you look at the figures, probably we might escape the worst. When the world has been affected with more than 27 lakhs so far and 2 lakhs approximately are the death figures. In India, the figure is 23,500 or so and hardly 700 deaths. Not that these precious lives are not to be mourned, but the figures say that the path we took was absolutely correct, and no comparison is good at this stage with any nation. But just for the sake of understanding the correctness of our path, I would say look at United States of America, the mightiest and richest nation on earth, which has been affected in a month with 9 lakhs and 50,000 deaths so far. Heart goes out to those people who are dying there, and every day the specter of more and more being affected is facing them. So far, India has been absolutely fine. We can now, Raviji, talk about the way forward, if you allow.
Yes.
I would say that the first lesson which comes out of this corona virus specter and the fight against it is that whole humanity, without any exception, everywhere, rich or poor nations, everyone was ill prepared in the form of health infrastructure, equipment, and quarantine spaces. Nobody had ever thought that they would ever face this, because it was 100 years before that such mahamaris or such big pandemics used to take place. when people will have to use the universities, colleges, schools, open spaces for quarantining people. But another lesson which has come out to corporates, organizations, and nations is the biggest resource at such a time is the employees. Employees with a high morale, high sense of duty and loyalty. And whether it be government or corporate sector or families, they need to nurture their employees. I can tell you one example of the health ministry itself, which has been working 24/7 and trying to get a grip over how it is spreading and what all can be done. And it has been done in cooperation with all the state governments and the local self-governments as well. Business continuity plan is a normal thing which should become a part of the normal planning now. Every business should be prepared to be able to live with zero revenue for a year or so, because you never know when a pandemic or some man-made disaster may strike the humanity again. Survival for next 1 year is not only before the Indian corporates, it is before the global corporates as well. They have to cut costs, cut all the flap, sell all the irrelevant things, and try to be prepared for coping through this period. And if we survive this period, maybe there will be much better days ahead again. Individuals as well as the organizations, they will have to change their priorities. For individuals, the first priority now becomes health. As well as for governments, it will become health and public welfare, mass welfare schemes, they become the priority. Everyone has to learn in economy or with frugality, if I am allowed to say so. Risk-free, being risk-free is the new mantra for the individuals, families, as well as the businesses. Over-leveraging is not the name of the game, not now, not ever. Work from home and digital platforms, which now we are using, used to be an exception, not a norm. They need to become a norm now. Engaging people is most important in any such disaster, as is evident from the exemplary connecting of our Honorable Prime Minister with the masses. He addressed them 4 or 5 times. And this engaging reduces uncertainty, anxiety, and fear, which cripple the capacity of individuals or the organizations to fight such a long war which Corona poses before us. As I said, that we might escape the worst, but we have to be prepared for further lockdowns, even if this lockdown is slowly and gradually removed. Why? Because nobody can say with certainty that there will be no reoccurrence of this virus. So life within lockdowns, life in a disciplined manner has to become a new norm. Capital movement is going to be an opportunity. There are going to be many opportunities for the country. It is not only that negatives are there. There may be positives, but at a cost. Capital always moves to the place where there is least disruption, least disturbance, and maximum opportunity for making profit. India, if it escapes in another 2 or 3 months from coronavirus, much less affected, there is a possibility, and there is also a possibility because of a sudden emotional and economic backlash against China, which may be warranted, may not be warranted, but it is likely to happen. If that happens, India is next in the line. So capital may come if we seize and grab it with both hands, if it suits us. There is a possibility for us to be contract manufacturers of the level of China. There is a possibility for us to attract sovereign and wealth fund. We should look into this. It is all the more necessary because we do not have the capacity to print currency like USA or other rich nations in the world has, Raviji. I would say that, life after Corona is never going to be the same. Forever there are going to be some changes. First is, for humans, there is a reorientation of the discretionary spend. First priority, first and last priority is going to be health. Everything else will come after. There is going to be a huge bust in digital economy, essential goods economy, digital marketing, technological costs. Businesses are going to become leaner. They are going to shed all the flaps and all unnecessary and irrelevant activities. And leveraging is going to be done very prudently where it is required. For government, there is going to be a big hit on revenues as they have accepted also, but they cannot escape the spending on health and mass welfare till Corona is going to last or even much later than that. For Indian exporters, there is a big opportunity, but when it was not. Only problem is that even smaller nations like Bangladesh on quality and on delivery front have more trustworthiness than us. So that Indian exporters need to take care of. Otherwise, there is a huge opportunity in many fields arising. And last but not the least, Raviji, there is a opportunity for this nation at the global stage to perform a role. Day before yesterday, I was discussing this with a friend who has retired as additional secretary to the government of India. Before that, he was additional secretary Lok Sabha, Mr. Atul Kaushik, who has worked for a very long time in WTO on behalf of the country and has written an article in a research journal on this opportunity which is, staring at us in front of us. Since last few years, since the presidency of Honorable Mr. Trump has started in America, there has been a perceptible decrease in reliance on multilateralism. In fact, it will be blunt but a potent truth that multilateralism is dying a death like a patient in ICU. And bilateralism has become the name of the game. Multilateral institutions were brought in so that except powerful nations, rest of the world can also get their disputes resolved, can also benefit from the policies, and the rich nations do not exploit rest of the world to their benefit forever. And India has been a founder member even of the United Nations and many such institutions. Although India does not have undoubtedly the financial muscle which United States or China or other richer nations have, but with a strong leadership in helm in India, which has been engaging everywhere where it was necessary. The Prime Minister has engaged the SAARC nations for a common fight against Corona. He has been engaging with other nations directly also. We have done a massive job of sending hydroxychloroquine to more than 55 nations and have earned the gratitude of many of those nations, including some very powerful nations. So nobody is going to deny India the opportunity of being a coordinator of all other nations other than United States who would like to fill in this gap or vacuum caused by United States of America, who has been wanting to withdraw from multilateral institutions. China could have filled this gap or vacuum, but unfortunately, the trustworthiness which China should have around the world, it does not have. It is sad, but it is true. They have the financial muscle, they have the resources, but they don't have the trustworthiness, which India has. So India can become a coordinator of all willing nations and can put life into the multilateral institutions, including World Health Organization, which must be supported during this crisis by all of us, including our nation. This is what is my small take on this virus fight which we are going through and what is going to be the way forward.
Great yeah, views, sir. I think you have covered a lot of ground, both regarding India's preparedness and India's efforts to combat corona and also the post-corona effects. Let's take some questions here, sir. Uh, there is a question on what will be the position of MSMEs after this effect.
The MSMEs are a major concern before the government because they are hit very badly. One is because of the capacity to survive on zero revenue for a long time. Second is their labor intensiveness. And it was easier to put the lockdown, but it is going to be very difficult to put the fear away and bring people back to the work. But I think and I believe that very soon the government of India is going to come up with lot of measures regarding the MSMEs, and this sector is the lifeline of the country, so it will not be allowed to go away, fritter away or die. Government is aware of it, I am 100% sure.
So, how do you compare the 2008 financial crisis and the current financial crisis, this corona crisis?
There is a huge difference. 2008 financial crisis was caused by over leveraging and by the unfructuous instruments which were sold again and again and again in United States. And also it was to some extent a housing crisis as well. And it had, basically a global effect, because that was the first time we all realized that the sickness or financial disaster in one country, how it is going to affect all the countries. And we realized that we are like a global village. So coming out of it was easier. Not that it was not a huge disaster or crisis, but it was easier because we could immediately all over the world agree as governments to open the tap and start spending, and also put the interest rates on almost zero ground, so that the economy should pick up slowly, and then slowly those things would be gradually brought back to normal. And that proved to be all right, because in 4 or 5 years the economies had started coming back on track. In this crisis, unfortunately, the money cannot solve everything. As I have been explaining, that first thing is that the uncertainty, and uncertainty always causes fear and panic, which is visible now. Morning itself there was news that Franklin Templeton, which is one of the best in mutual funds or asset management companies, was forced to close 6 of its schemes. Why? Because there was a huge redemption pressure. Now what has suddenly gone wrong with that everyone had to redeem? One is the requirement of the corporates maybe, but second thing is that there is a panic as well. And this panic is not going to go away till a vaccine is found out, or suddenly the rising rate of corona infection or rising rate of death by corona infection, this starts falling. So this uncertainty is a new factor which was not there in 2008, which was not there in 1929 or any other financial disease.
So another question is regarding jobs. Like how do you see the employment or the unemployment scenario after this?
See, as far as the demand for labor is going to be concerned, it is going to be huge. Even now, when the industry wants to open up in steps, they are facing major problem in the form of labor having migrated back to their homes, even to the extent that they have gone on foot,
Yes.
taking months together to reach, and some of them may never reach their homes. But that is the kind of panic and fear it has caused. So demand for labor is not going to die down, so employment will not be a problem. But whether people will come back immediately out of the fear which has been caused is going to be a problem. It may take few months or it may take a year. That is where the problem is going to be for all the businesses.
Sir, as you are seeing in the US and Europe and Canada, there is a lot of bankruptcies happening and a lot of job losses are there. In the US, massive rise in the unemployment rate has happened in last 1 month. So do you see similar situation here also?
See, there is a difference in basically two places. One is we have they have unemployment allowance.
Yes.
Which is a different way of supporting the population than what we have. We have MG Narega, which is basically an employment guarantee scheme only. But you are guaranteeing employment but not giving allowance for not working. So with that massive scheme being there, and Government of India not at all thinking of reneging on it, it is not going to be a huge problem for employing people. Right now the problem is not having people who will come forward. For example,
Exactly.
फसल कटाई का time है, rabi crop is there, and labor is not there. Since I have worked in Food Corporation of India for more than 3 years, I can understand the problem they are facing. So there are no easy answers for everything, but I think we will not face that kind of unemployment problem which America is facing, because we have avenues for employing the people.
So we are seeing that there might be closure of like malls or cinema halls, restaurants for a longer time, and they employ a massive amount of people, and hotels for like the travel industry, tourism industry. Like they are perhaps the last people who will open up. And they are like employing a huge amount of blue collar workers right now. They also have a chunk of a big part of the economy. So how do you see the impact on them?
See, as far as these workers, they have gone back from, let us say these industries or cities or the urban areas back to their homes, where they will find some work in, agriculture or, in development schemes like MNREGA, government schemes. Problem is going to be for these high contact businesses that not only they will not be able to induce very easily the workers to come back, but they have a genuine concern that they are not sure whether with thermo checking room sanitizing, work sanitizing, place sanitizing, as well as social distancing, whether even that is sufficient to guarantee that, corona doesn't spread. So far, it has helped, but it has not stopped corona from, spread. So that is where, these industries, I already said, that the high contact businesses are going to be hit very bad for some time to come.
Sir, there is a question around how administration devolution can get affected due to pandemics like situation. Do you feel it is needed to check this? Question by Honda Kiran Kumar. How administration devolution has been affected? I think
If I understand you correctly, he is talking of administrative devolution.
yes.
Administrative devolution, if he is talking in terms of, there are three levels of government which functions: central government, state governments, as well as the local self governments, or the panchayati raj, or like village councils, etc., the informal institutions in the northeastern area. There has been a complete coordination and cooperation in these three levels, because you see, you can impose a national lockdown, or you can issue some guidelines regarding corona. Ultimately, who is going to implement them? It is the state governments. It is the workers at the panchayat level, taluka level, block level, or the village level. If they don't implement it, nothing can happen. So, as far as administrative devolution is concerned, I think in this country it is working very properly, very effectively. Actually, unfortunately, probably as a nation, as a united whole, we only function during the disasters. I wish we were functioning like this in normal times as well.
So, there is a question of do we need to focus on our foreign policy at this time? Like WHO is being the funding has been stopped by the US. So what has India supposed to do?
I think, Ravi, I have already answered that.
Yes. You already answered.
I have covered the whole area of foreign policy, that there is a huge opportunity before the country, and after having a strong prime minister who loves to interact and work at the global platform, if still we could not capitalize on this opportunity, it will be a shame on us.
There is a question around what is the possible reason that countries like US, Spain, Italy have faced the worst of the COVID-19, whereas India is damaged to the lesser extent. Why is it so? Is it because we have higher immunity, we have the BCG, or what is the reason?
See, the whole world is, wondering about it. It is not easy to answer this question, because those nations are very rich, very capable nations, very disciplined people. It is not that, only thing is that, although, there is no research supporting this idea that, the warmer climates, or hotter climates are in any way more safer than colder climate. But the number of corona cases which has happened in the older nations, you see there are cases in Africa also, but Africa as a continent, and then Indian subcontinent, we are affected. So one factor may be this. Second factor is also that basically they say that when you are day in and day out living in unhygienic and basically unhygienic, unsanitized, dirty environment, you develop some kind of an immunity. If you remember long back, there was a talk about there being a super bug in the Yamuna waters. And they said that it is very strange because this super bug does not have any known, vaccination or any known, treatment for it. But still, the people of Delhi or people living around Yamuna have an immunity to this.
Hmm.
So maybe it is some super bug like immunity which has saved us. And most of the people who have been affected so far have been, elderly people or people who were already suffering from some or the other debilitating diseases. Maybe partially I have answered this question, but it is nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So we have been lucky in some
We
way.
have been lucky,
Yes.
and we should capitalize on this luck and stay homes and do well, and also prepare for the way forward after COVID. There is one question which was asked by someone on my WhatsApp.
So
That was basically regarding Northeast. That
yes.
how Northeast has escaped coronavirus, although it is a much colder climate than basically rest of the country. So answer is that, as I have already said, that there is no research to substantiate whether it the colder climates or the hotter climates serve as a deterrent to the virus. But the fact of the matter is that by and large there is much lesser influx of foreigners there in the Northeast. It is, whatever we may say about tourism and rest of the things, it is still a part which is more like a wilderness, lesser visited. This is one. Second thing is that I must say hats off to those smaller states. The whole of Northeast has not more than 50-60 cases, and most of them they are actually in Assam. And Assam, they say that there were people who were part of Markaz, or they had gone back and they affected some. We don't know the real truth, but main thing is true that these governments, just as soon as the government of India put a stay at home a lockdown, they immediately went into lockdown, and they have very strictly implemented it. And they have also been very active in providing treatment, help to the people. And even here all the resident commissioners of various bhavans in Delhi, I see that they are providing all the help to the students from the Northeast. This says about them. The Northeasterners basically in this country are joy to watch. They have a very strong community life and a feeling for each other as a family, and this is what basically has saved. And Kerala is another example, Ravi, for the whole country to watch and learn from.
Yes.
They have faced the maximum level of disaster and have controlled it like anything. Hats off to them.
Yes. Sir, there is a question about how do you think another lockdown coming? How MSME can plan for next 2-3 months? Shyam Sharma.
The only way MSMEs can survive is that the government comes out with a package which provides them the capacity to survive with minimal revenue for next 6 to 9 months. Because there is no industry which is going to go into full gear and is going to be able to meet its fixed cost as well as the recurring cost of the employees' salaries, and then able to sell so much that they can earn the revenue and survive. Mool mantra at this time is those which are cash-rich industries, they will survive by the cash they have. The rest of it has to be provided by the government. And of course, they should be able to convince some loyalist labor to come back and work, and they should provide them extra incentives. They should take care of their security. These are the only ways MSMEs or any other industry will.
There is a question that will the foreign investment in India increase after Corona or decrease? Sudhir.
As I have already, said that this is an opportunity. Capital movement is going to be a big opportunity, but see, ease of business, already we were not very high on that list. Either we should, immediately look at, the recurring requests from, the foreign capital, what they have been asking, and should provide them. One example, the softer areas, it will come very fast. For example, Facebook saw an opportunity in Reliance Jio platforms, so they have come in immediately. Because Reliance Jio, it has a huge infrastructure on which they can put their superstructure. And sooner or later, Reliance Jio is going to be separated from its parent, and then it will capitalize its business. And then, that profitability is going to, give the profits to whosoever investment. So it is a win-win situation for Facebook, Reliance, as well as for the country. So I think there is a huge opportunity. It is not only the individual business people like Ambani has done, but also the associations in various sectors, as well as the government and our foreign service, as well as to grab this opportunity with both hands and try to bring in the capital, but not at a cost which will hurt this country, but we should, provide them the ease of business. Capital comes for earning profits with ease. If we are not going to allow them to earn the profit, legitimate profit, and take it back home, why will they come? That is the answer to this.
So, Government of India has relaxed some of the norms for some of the categories like the factories and services in the rural areas, agriculture, to work in the lockdown situation. How are you seeing the next 2 months, 3 months? Like, how are you seeing the exit strategy from here?
No, see, the relaxations which have been given are very genuine. There doesn't have to be any exit from that, because this is a basic requirement. Rather, I would say that, one long pending reform is in the labor laws and labor. So that, needs to be tackled. This second, see, what is required for a business which is, not in the space, like software businesses, not in the space, but which has to come on ground. It requires land. It requires, basically capital, which they will bring in. It requires labor. These are basically the tools of the trade. So labor laws, land laws, whatever is required by them. See, already bankruptcy norms, as well as, exit norms, they have been, put into, they're already put into place with IBC, etc. So that part has been taken care of. Now, rest of the reforms, they should be fast-tracked completely and fully now. And then this is just the beginning of a new ball game for us.
So, great point regarding reforms. Like the last major reform was in 91 when we had a massive crisis. Are you seeing that this crisis will help Government of India or push Government of India to do those long pending reforms which several organizations have been asking, MNCs have been asking? So will it happen? No.
See, I see a strong possibility, because although we are very fond of saying that the last major reform happened, in 91, which is true. But in last 5 to 7 years of, this current government coming in, there have been, a lot of, reforms. They have taken, these NPAs by, the horns. They have faced it frontally. Although sometimes, basically one feels or people say that probably they should have done it gradually. because suddenly, cleaning up the whole thing, NPS have become, a crisis in itself. But then there is no way except to start on a clean state. So they have done it well. GST, it is prone with difficulties. Everywhere it has started with hiccups. So it was done with lesser preparation. Many people, claim. But I would say that ultimately it was a step in the right direction. Ultimate goal, nobody can dispute. So initial hiccups, apart, this is a good reform. IBC and bankruptcy norm, exit policy, that is, basically a good norm. Now labor reforms in agriculture marketing, these are long pending. And they should be, basically brought in now. It is high time. And I have, maybe by nature I am optimistic, but I have a high hope that just like I am saying that the government should, go and claim its, right position on the global stage. Same way I am saying that we should bring in the capital, and that will not come without reforms.
Sir, 7-8 years back, we were at 7-8% growth. In February, I think we had the estimates were around 4%. And suddenly, now the IMF and all other global organizations are saying that we may be between 0 to 1% this year after the corona crisis. So in 7 to 8 years, we're moved from 8% to almost 0% of growth. How do you see this, the whole de-acceleration in the economic growth rate has impacted and will now impact the bigger one, the after corona, the MSME, the jobs, the urban employment, the rural employment, economy, the movement of people from lower rungs of the poverty to the higher echelons in the society. So how do you see this whole transition happening now?
See, there is a difference in two parts of the growth. One part of economic growth depends upon economic cycles. It's called cyclical. Second part is, basically structural. So whenever there is a recession or a deceleration or a slowdown, whatever name we give it, different forms, either it is because of cyclical factors or it is because of structural factors. Where it is cyclical factors, there is no government in the world which can accelerate it. For example, not only because of corona crisis, but because of, basically the politics behind it, oil politics, what we call. Oil prices went down one night to 0 and to minus $35 because of the carrying costs and transportation costs, etc. included. This is unprecedented, never seen in the world. Now, what government of India has control over it? Yes, government of India could benefit from it if we buy, oil at such cheap rates and can store it. But how much you can store? This is one. So this is a cyclical thing which is happening to oil. But do you think that oil will always remain at such a price which is less than the cost of production? Never. So it should be visible to a blind person even, that even now it is much below the cost of production. So US economy cannot survive, and Russian economy cannot survive, Middle East even cannot survive at these prices. So ultimately it is against the welfare of everyone. So sooner or later it will come back in. So it will come back. But now once it has gone to such unprecedented levels, it is not going to go above $40-50 a barrel for many years to come. It is in a recessionary state. But at least some dollars above the cost of production is going to help. Same way, China is the biggest manufacturing hub in the world. So it is the biggest consumer of metals of all industrial raw products, ores, everything. If China goes into recession or into a slowdown, which it has been for so many years, even before Corona. So what happens? The prices of all the metals, all the raw materials which are required by it, they fall. And the producers of those raw materials, like we are, they all suffer because the prices will be ultimately controlled by demand and supply. So cyclical factors, nobody can control. So they happen every 5 years to 7 years, they happen and then they go. So I would say that this slowdown which has been there in our economy, to some extent, people blame it all on demonetization, GST suddenly being done, together being done, not being done properly, not being thought of. I am not saying, there is no truth in that. Maybe they also became contributing factors to the already happening slowdown, which was happening because of cyclical factors. Structural factors, I have already said. We are not able to get maximum capital because we have not reformed the labor laws. We have not reformed, basically the agricultural marketing or agricultural laws, because of which you don't have very big, contract, farming coming in this country. So some structural factors are already there, which are aware to the government, and they are sensitive. They are sensitive factors. Sensibilities of many people and factions are, basically attached to them. So government has to treat very carefully. But they should not be procrastinating now. They should now grab the opportunity. This is what I am saying. So structural factors they can tackle. Cyclical factors they cannot tackle. But cycles they turn back. And I see that 2 to 3 years down the line, economies will be again roaring back. When the demand has ever slacked down for permanence, it doesn't. People have to eat, people have to recreate, people need transportation, people need all kinds of things. So right now there will be a fear for 1 year. People won't come much. Social distancing will be less. Air traffic will suffer. Hotels will suffer. Malls will suffer. Cinemas and multiplexes will suffer. High contact businesses will suffer. But how long? Human beings are gregarious by nature. They love socializing. They cannot live. They cannot live in aloneness. Only few sannyasis can live in the mountains. So economy cannot remain at the slow down stage forever. So I see 2 years down the line, by 2022 end, you will see Indian economy again at a rate of 7 to 8% or more than. We have no other way. We have such a big population. There are many areas. One more area which is irrespective of this corona, but why not act on it now? Because disaster is providing us an opportunity, is our manpower. Our manpower, basic earlier, wherever, basically the prosperity boom was, brought, whether it was in Kerala or Punjab, it was by whom? Immigrant workers. Remittances are still, big for India, big foreign exchange earner for India. So why don't we think on, basically this line, that education should be now, geared up, not whole education system. Let basic education remain as it is. But special educational institutions or special courses catering to the demand in the industries abroad, because their labor is very costly. People even cannot hire labor for their home, for cleaning or doing something. Even repairs have to be carried yourself. So if we can have people trained in those areas which are required, we can send billions of workers out, and they'll happily go, because the population is so large This country cannot fill the bellies of everyone as well as meet all their, ambitions and demands. Maybe basic food, basic requirements will meet, but otherwise they need space and place to expand. So education is one opportunity. We should be doing it. In Northeast, we have very little density of population, and the whole place is land, lush green, just like Switzerland, beautiful climate, no diseases, no pollution. Why don't we make the whole of Northeast as an educational or a hospital hub for foreigners? Already most of the revenue streams of Apollo hospitals and many big hospitals, they are from the patients from Africa or Middle East or Southeast Asia. So we have opportunities, only those opportunities have now not to be left to individual business enterprises. Government should grab it, make them its areas of prominence, where the committees or groups need to act, and then things can happen. So plenty are the opportunities, I would say. Our economy is not in that bad shape, pardon my saying so, and it will grow very well after 2-3 years. So if one has the patience, one will grow. Just now we need to survive, and survive with health and dignity.
So, last question which I have is that Churchill has said that never waste a crisis, never waste a good crisis. How you already have mentioned some of the points, but in this situation, this crisis situation, how India should act so that we don't waste this crisis?
I would give a very simple message. Number one, for individuals like you and me, because Vyashti se samashti banti hai. Individuals only make the society and the nations and the universe.
Yes.
If individuals are not good, nothing can be good. So this is a forced opportunity for all of us human beings all around the world to go inside ourselves. We have been forced. Most of the time we are just interacting with the external stimuli and responding from moment to moment and minute to minute. We have never gone inside, introspected, or basically lived peacefully with us. That is why when you are forced to be in isolation, you feel so depressed, you want to commit suicide. Our life is dependent upon external stimuli only. So this is a time when one should be able to go inside, introspect, and also learn to live with oneself in peace, as well as cultivate the skills to bring relaxation on demand, to be in peace on demand, to live in isolation on requirement, to live with zero revenue for months together, to live with minimum expectations and demand for many months together if required. Because this is also a skill which we must learn, and it will help then if there is a next crisis. Why we should consider this as the last crisis? Let crisis come, but from this we will rise up as a phoenix, so that if we ever face another one, we will not be taken unprepared. This is the first message for individuals. For corporates, same thing. We have never, basically thought that our employees are our best resource. We spend on them, we train them, but we still considered Rokda at the end of the cash flow is the only thing. We need now little more to spend on our employees, because better human beings also should be one of the goals of every organization and enterprise, including the government. Why not? Because ultimately today government is being run by few faithful, loyal and high morale, self-motivated individuals only. If they are not there, nothing will happen. There will be chaos everywhere. Amul has not lost a single milliliter of milk collection and distribution. If it had happened, what would have happened? So these are few examples. So I would say for organizations, it is employees, employees, and employees, which should be, the Moola Mantra. Survival for next 1 year and keeping expansion plans in store, but keeping them ready in harness, that as soon as this crisis is over, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this. We must make our plans. We should not waste this time. Same way, for government as an enterprise, 3 things. 1, global stage is ready. Please go and grab it. Multilateral institutions are dying like corona patients. Revive them. They need you. This is going to be the second non-aligned movement.
Yes.
One which was done by Nehruji at that time. Maybe that was the requirement of the day. And so many people joined. And now it will be by Modi ji, the global guru, the global coordinator for bringing the nations together so that everyone can prosper. Sabka Vikas, Sabke Saath. I think that Nara can prove to be a truth at the global stage as well. Third thing, the reforms which have been kept pending, please do them immediately and bring in the foreign capital, because we cannot print the currency and money is required now in abundance to go through this crisis, as well as to rightfully claim our place in the world manufacturing hub. We must be the #1 contract manufacturer now, not after China, but before China. We can do it. And SEBI, all other, the institutions, regulators which are there, should put their head together and see how sovereign funds, wealth funds, other funds can be attracted more and more during this crisis to the country because of the opportunities of growth and profit it offers. Thank you very much.
Great, sir. Excellent views and imaging. You have covered so much of the ground and given so much inspirational ideas. And hats off to you for your such a vast perspective on the whole situation and the way forward. So with this, we will like to, we are near to the close of this webinar. And I thank also all the audience who are here on Zoom and also on the Facebook with us for joining in. And I will request you all, if you have liked this interaction, like this video, please share it as much as possible so that the great ideas which have emerged here are spread as much to many other people. So with this, namaskar, Palla sir, बहुत अच्छा लगा, धन्यवाद, नमस्कार, thank you.